Before we start with the listening, make sure to subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon and join our Telegram group.
Section 1. You will hear a man telephoning a sports club to ask about membership and facilities. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Good morning. Sorry, it's gone 12. I'll start again. Good afternoon, Kingswell Sports Club. How can I help you?
Oh, good afternoon. I was wondering if you could give me some information about membership and facilities.
Of course. What would you like to know?
Do you have tennis courts, for example?
No, I'm afraid we don't. We're primarily a golf club.
What about football? I heard you had a team.
No, I'm sorry. Perhaps you're thinking about Fresham Sports Centre.
Oh, right. I know it. I've played badminton there.
Have you? They've got a lot of facilities we don't have, and vice versa. We do have a Keep Fit studio, which is very popular with members, and then as well as that, there's swimming, of course.
That's good. I like to swim every day.
We have a range of classes, too.
Do you have judo classes? I'm keen to learn.
Well, at the moment, we offer kickboxing. We're planning to add judo and stretch classes soon. We're currently running a range of yoga classes, too.
What about relaxing after exercise? I assume you have a restaurant or something?
At the moment, we've got a salad bar, which is very popular. We'll also have a fully licensed restaurant by the end of the year.
Sounds good.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 5 to 10.
What kind of membership are you interested in?
Not really sure. What are the options?
Well, there are 3 different membership schemes.
I see. What's the difference?
Well, the first one's called Gold, and you can use all the facilities at any time of the day or week. You can also join in as many classes as you like for free.
That sounds good. Is it very expensive?
Well, you pay a £250 joining fee, and then it's £450. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's just gone up by £50. Sorry about that. It's now £500 for the annual subscription fee.
Right, got that. And what's the next type?
Well, that's silver. It's the same as gold, except you have to pay a small fee of £1 per lesson for any you do, and you can only use the centre at certain times.
I see. So when exactly?
You can only use the facilities between 10 a.m. and 4:30 p.m.
So I couldn't use the pool at 8 in the morning or evening then?
That's right.
Okay, and the price for that? Is the joining fee the same as for gold?
Actually, it's slightly less than the £250. It's £225, but the annual fee is only £300. Does that sound more like what you want?
Well, it's still rather more expensive than I thought. I'm a student here in England, and I'm only here for 6 months.
Ah, then the bronze scheme would probably suit you best.
How is that different?
Well, some of the facilities have restricted use.
And do I have to pay for classes?
Yes, it's £3 for each class you join.
I see. And what are the hours then?
between 10:30 and 3:30 weekdays only, and you pay a £50 joining fee. The annual fee is £180. It works out at £15 a month, so that would be quite a lot cheaper.
Oh, that should be all right. I could come in my free periods. What do I have to do if I want to join?
Well, we book you in for an assessment with an instructor who will show you how to use all the equipment. If you want to organise a trial session and look around the centre, you'll need to speak to David Kinchley.
Could you spell that, please?
Yes, David, KynChley. I'll give you his direct line number. It's 0458 95 311.
Thanks.
Thank you for calling Kingswell Sports Club.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
First look at questions 11 to 16. Now turn to Section 2. Section 2. You're going to hear the immigration officer at a British embassy explaining the visa application process to a group of people who wish to go to the United Kingdom. First look at questions 11 to 16. As you listen to the first part of the talk, answer questions 11 to 16.
Good morning. I'm the head visa officer here. Welcome to our monthly talk on applying for British visa. We used to give everybody photocopies of the different forms you have to fill in, but found that that was rather expensive. So to save money and paper, we now use slides that you can see on the screen behind me. By the way, this and the other forms you will see are the same forms that you will see if you go online to UK Visas, that's one word, .gov.uk. They are very similar to the hard copy you will find in our offices. The first question, do you need a visa to enter the UK? If you are not a British citizen, or a citizen of one of the European Economic Area countries, you may need an entry clearance before you travel to the UK. Entry clearance means the application process for people who need a visa to travel to the United Kingdom, and for those who don't need a visa for a short stay. How short depends on their nationality, but who intend a longer stay or to settle in the UK. People from certain countries, known as visa nationals, the first type I mentioned, need an entry clearance to enter the UK for any reason. Those from other countries need only one for certain reasons. For example, to live as the wife or husband of a British citizen. The entry clearance certificate, that we all call a visa, is placed in your passport or travel document. The job of an entry clearance officer at a British embassy or consulate or other mission overseas is to decide if you qualify for entry before you travel to the United Kingdom. These officers stick to very strict rules and procedures. If you need to find out more, then you can click on the Immigration Rules and Diplomatic Service Procedures entry clearance. If you have a valid UK visa, you will not normally be refused entry to the UK on arrival, unless your circumstances have changed, you gave false information, or you did not tell the entry clearance officer important facts when you applied for your visa. So let's assume that you have your entry visa, which, by the way, is only valid up to a certain date. At your UK port of arrival, the visa tells the immigration officer there the purpose of your travel, how long you can stay in the UK, and the latest date that you can enter the UK. Normally, you may enter and leave the UK as many times as you like during the validity of your visa.
Now look at questions 17 to 20. As the talk continues, answer questions 17 to 20.
Okay, let's go back to the question. Do you need a visa? If you look on the screen now, you will see a picture of the first page of the form. Do I need a UK visa? We find that a few people spend hours filling out visa application forms, only to discover that they don't need a visa. You can use this questionnaire to find out if you need a visa or entry clearance to enter or transit through the UK. Please note that the rules can change sometimes, so it's a good idea to visit the news page and the Visa and DATV Nationals page. You can see that this is recommended on the form. Going down the form, we see the purpose of visit section, au pair, business, doctor, medical treatment, to see one's fiancé, returning resident, student for more than 6 months, and dozens more. I must stress again that it is very important that you answer all the questions truthfully and accurately. Even an accidental mistake can ruin your chances of getting a visa, possibly forever. Next, we have country of nationality. Please note that this refers to the passport you hold or that you will hold, and not to where you are living or staying now. That is the next question, current location, which is quite simple. So as well helping you find out if you need a visa, you can also find out where you should make your application, as well as which application form you need to fill in, and which guidance note you should read. Now, some of you here I know wish to sponsor a visitor to the UK, and others of you have a sponsor for your visit. The basic rules applying to a sponsored visitor are: 1. He or she wishes to stay in the UK as a visitor for no more than 6 months. 2. He or she intends to leave the United Kingdom on completion of his or her visit. And 3. He or she has enough money to live without working and without needing help from public funds, such as income support or housing benefit.
That is the end of section 2. You now have some time to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. You're going to hear a market researcher asking an elderly couple in a shopping mall about how their environmental awareness affects their shopping decisions. Listen to the first part of the conversation and answer questions 21 to 25. You now have some time to read questions 21 to 25.
Good morning, madam, sir. My name is Bob Smith. I'm doing a survey of people's shopping preferences and how it relates to their thoughts about the environment. I'd be very grateful if you could spare a few minutes of your time.
The environment, you say? Well, I think it's very important. It's terrible what's happening. You can't pick up a newspaper without reading about melting ice caps and tigers going extinct. I'm very worried about my grandchildren's future.
Oh, don't carry on, dear. Are we going to help this gentleman, or do you have to get to your meeting?
It's the environment. Of course we're going to help him. My meeting can wait.
Looks like we can spare you a few minutes. By the way, what's your name again, Bob?
Right, Bob.
I'm John, and this is Joan.
Great. Good to meet you.
You don't mind me asking who you are doing this for and what the purpose is? I don't want to go out giving information that will help those big corporations sell more junk food to children.
Don't worry, it's the opposite. I work for the Green Market Research Company based in West London. We specialise in helping environmentally responsible companies tell consumers why they should buy their products, rather than products that have a more damaging effect on the environment.
Well, that's a good thing. All those poisons the big companies are putting in our food and air. Have you read about the polar bears and seals in the Arctic having very high levels of PCBs, pesticides, and lots of other terrible things in them? And there are no factories where they live.
It's okay, dear. Why don't we see what the gentleman wants to know?
As the conversation continues, answer questions 26 to 30. You now have some time to read questions 26 to 30.
Yes, well, thank you, sir. Look, why don't we sit down at that table? Can I get you a coffee, tea, or something?
Oh, I'd love a cup of tea. My husband always has black coffee.
Sure. Anyway, can I begin by asking you what you believe is the most serious environmental problem humans are facing nowadays?
Well, there are so many. But since I retired, I've been doing a lot of reading about this. So much information on the internet. I think it's climate change, global warming.
Global warming. And John, may I call you John?
Please do.
And does this make any difference to your shopping decisions?
It certainly does. For example, we bought a new fridge a week ago. We're both pensioners, so we're a bit careful about how we spend our money. We had already decided we didn't need such a big fridge. We'd had the old one since the kids left home over 20 years. But we also decided to look for the most energy-efficient fridge.
Yes, it cost £20 more than the second most efficient one. But John worked out we would soon save more on our electricity bill.
So what was the main reason you chose the most expensive one? Saving money or saving energy to reduce the effect on global warming?
Oh, global warming, certainly. The money savings were secondary.
And did the salesman where you bought it mention global warming before you did that?
Oh, no. I think he thought we were a bit strange, but he was too polite to show it. But he did point out the lower electricity bills.
And you, Joan, what do you think is the most serious environmental problem?
Well, John and I both agree that it is global warming.
What about the second most serious?
Oh, it must be all those pesticides and other chemicals. Do you know that we are all walking around with hundreds of chemicals inside us that Mother Nature never intended to be there? John, what was that name they used? P.O. something.
Persistent organic pollutants, dear. POPs.
That's it. POPs. Well, they're so harmful. All that cancer. It's terrible.
I agree. And what difference, if any, does this make to your shopping?
Well, we love gardening, so we grow most of our own vegetables now. But when we buy food, we always go to the health food store and buy organic fruits and vegetables, and our children do the same now.
It costs a bit more, but it's getting cheaper as more and more people insist on it. And the farmers are happy not to work with all those pesticides and herbicides. So we try to do our bit for the planet.
That's great. Okay, let's drink our tea and coffee and then we'll carry on.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 4. Section 4. You will hear a lecture on prairie dogs. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Welcome to this presentation on prairie dogs. You can see a picture of these rather cute animals on this slide. As you can see, they are about the size of a rabbit, and they have a brown or clay-coloured coat with black-tipped hairs and a black-tipped tail. The underside of the prairie dog is a light tan colour. They have short legs and sharp claws to help them dig their homes. Their bodies are 12 to 15 inches long, with a 3 to 4 inch tail, and they weigh 2 to 4 pounds. I've been interested in these animals for a long time and would like to talk about a remarkable discovery. The barks of prairie dogs have distinct individual meanings. Prairie dogs have different words for tall human in yellow shirt, short human in green shirt, coyote, deer, red-tailed hawk, and many other creatures. They can even coin new terms for things they've never seen before, independently coming up with the same calls or words, according to research done over 2 decades by a professor from Arizona University, who can now not only call himself a biology professor, but also a prairie dog linguist. Prairie dogs of the Gunnison species, which were studied intensely, actually speak different dialects in Arizona and in Colorado, but they would probably understand one another, research indicates. So far, this is believed to be, or prairie dogs appear to be, demonstrating the most sophisticated communication system that anyone has shown in animals. Prairie dog chatter is variously described by observers as a series of yips, high-pitched barks, or eeks. And most scientists think prairie dogs simply make sounds that reflect their inner condition. That means all they're saying are things like ouch, or hungry, or eek. But we now know that prairie dogs are communicating detailed information to one another about what animals are showing up in their colonies, and maybe even gossiping. Linguists have set 5 criteria that must be met for something to qualify as a language. It must contain words with abstract meanings, possess syntax in which the order of words is part of their meaning, have the ability to coin new words, be composed of smaller elements, and use words separated in space and time from what they represent. The American researchers focused their efforts on these 5 criteria to see if prairie dogs use a language as defined by human linguists or not. Work was done in the field and in laboratory. With digital recorders, they recorded the calls prairie dogs make as they see different people, dogs, and other animals of different sizes and with different coat colours, such as hawks and elk. They then analysed the sounds using a computer that dissects the underlying structure and creates a sonogram or visual representation of the sound. Computer analysis later identifies the similarities and differences. The prairie dogs have calls for various predators, but also for elk, deer, antelope and cows. It's as if they're trying to inform one another what's out there. So far, the researchers have recorded at least 20 different words. Some of those words or calls were created by the prairie dogs when they saw something for the first time. 4 prairie dogs in the lab were shown a great horned owl and European ferret, 2 animals they had almost certainly not seen before. If only because the owls are mostly nocturnal and this kind of ferret is foreign. The prairie dogs independently came up with the same new calls. In the field, black plywood cutouts showing the silhouette of a coyote, a skunk, and a circular shape were randomly run along a wire through the prairie dog colony. Now there were no black ovals running around out there, and yet they all had the same word for black circle. The researchers believe that prairie dogs are genetically programmed with some vocabulary and the ability to describe things. The researchers then played back a recorded prairie dog alarm call for coyote in a prairie dog colony when no coyote was around. The prairie dogs had the same escape response as they did when the predator was really there. In other words, there's no coyote present, but the prairie dogs hear this recording of prairie dogs barking, "Hey, there's a coyote," and they say, "Oh, coyote, better hide." Computer analysis has been able to break down some prairie dog calls into different components, suggesting the creatures have yet another element of real language. The researchers are quietly confident that they will establish that the prairie dogs will meet the 5 criteria set by linguists. Then there will be conclusive proof that animals have language. That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
अगर आपने मेरे चैनल को अभी तक सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो मेक श्योर टू सब्सक्राइब माई चैनल, हिट द बेल आइकन, लाइक दिस वीडियो एंड join our Telegram group, link in the description for more free IELTS related material.